Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bullvine Podcast. I'm your host, Bella, and today we're diving into an incredible story of resilience, passion, and Holstein excellence.
And I'm Douglas, joining Bella to explore the remarkable journey of Nico Bons, a breeder who transformed a commercial herd into one of the world's most respected Holstein operations. This is truly a story of overcoming tragedy to achieve triumph in the dairy world.
That's right, Douglas. Today, we'll cover how Nico went from telling his father he had no interest in farming to judging in 17 countries and winning championships across Europe. We'll explore the personal tragedy that shaped him, his transformative experience in Canada, and how his family plays a crucial role in their success.
It's a story that really resonates with anyone pursuing excellence in breeding. So let's get started.
Let's begin with something we don't often talk about in the dairy industry: the personal struggles behind the success stories. For Nico Bons, his journey took a devastating turn in 1999 when he was in his early 20s.
What happened was truly heartbreaking. Nico had just reconciled with his girlfriend Leanne when his father died by suicide. The circumstances make it even more tragic.
Nico's brother had fallen from the barn roof while fixing a frozen water pipe. After days in a coma and a year of rehabilitation, his brother was never the same again. Nico has shared that his father never forgave himself for that accident, and that guilt eventually became too much to bear.
You can hear the raw emotion when Nico talks about it. He said, quote, "Losing your dad from the evening before it happens, that you talk about everything and have discussions, and then the next day he's not there anymore, it's unbelievable hard. That kind of sudden loss is something many can't imagine."
What I find particularly moving is how this loss continues to echo through even his greatest achievements. Nico has said that whenever he wins a championship with one of his cows, the first thing he thinks is what his dad would think about this.
He's also talked about all the milestones his father missed: his wedding, the birth of his children, and his first champion cow at a show. That's something no amount of success can replace.
The aftermath of this tragedy wasn't just emotional. It forced Nico to make some major decisions about his future. His brother had been designated to take over the farm, but after the accident, that wasn't possible. Meanwhile, Nico had been eyeing opportunities in Canada, not planning to stay in the Netherlands.
Amid this grief and uncertainty, Nico found unexpected clarity through an experience that had planted seeds years earlier, a 3-month adventure in Canada that would ultimately redefine his entire approach to dairy farming. So Bella, want to know where the spark for Nico's breeding philosophy really began? Just 3 months in Canada, when he was 18 years old, completely changed his trajectory.
That's fascinating. And this wasn't some fancy exchange program, right? I understand it happened because of distant family connections.
Exactly. It was the kind of connection where relatives visit every few years. Uncle Bos and Aunt Simon, Ed Bos's parents, would occasionally visit the Netherlands, and through that connection, Nico arranged his training period at Bosdale Farms.
I love how Nico describes this time in his life. He said, quote, "The 3 months working for Bosdale were probably one of the best 3 months in my life till now, to be honest." He talks about it being pure learning without responsibilities.
And what's incredible is that Bosdale wasn't just any farm. It would later be recognized for breeding some of the most excellent cows in Canadian history. That's quite the training ground.
The differences between Dutch and Canadian approaches to showing cattle apparently floored him. In the Netherlands at that time, shows were quick, one-day affairs. Drive to the show at 5 a.m., show your cows at 9 a.m., and head home by 4 p.m.
But in Canada, days of meticulous preparation, attention to top lines, belly hair, details Nico had never even considered before. It completely changed his perspective on what was possible with show cattle.
Beyond the technical aspects, Ed Bos taught him something that would define his career: independence of thought. Nico has said the most important thing he learned was how Ed always followed his own instincts. He had such a good eye for a cow and knew exactly what he wanted.
Canada got under his skin so deeply that he almost didn't come home. He admits, "I had something like my future could be here."
His father insisted he return to the Netherlands first, creating what would become a lifelong tension between Nico's Canadian dreams and Dutch reality. It's amazing how those 3 months set the foundation for everything that followed. So Douglas, when Nico returned from Canada, you can imagine he was full of new ideas and excitement about applying what he'd learned, right?
And like so many young people returning with new ideas, he hit a brick wall of resistance at home. His father was focused on milk production and components, the traditional Dutch approach. Canadian genetics? Not interested.
But here's where we see that determination that defines Nico. He wanted to use Browndale Stardust so badly after seeing his amazing daughters at Bosdale that he did something quite creative.
Creative is one way to put it. He's admitted that he changed the minus signs for production and protein from Stardust's genetic evaluation into plus signs when showing them to his father. That little deception was enough to get his dad to change his mind.
When Nico took over the farm in 1999 after his father's passing, the herd classification average was 80.2. For our listeners who might not be familiar with classification scores, that's a solidly commercial herd, but nowhere near elite show quality.
Industry experts told him it would take 30 to 40 years to win a national championship without buying into established cow families. Most people would have been completely discouraged by that timeline.
But by 2002, just 3 years later, Nico built an entirely new barn specifically designed for show cattle. It featured wider cubicles placed away from walls to give cows more space, design choices that were considered radical in Dutch farming at that time.
What's remarkable is how completely devoted he became to his vision. Every decision was filtered through the question, will this help me create winning show cows? As Nico puts it, it's almost tattooed on my head. I want to have a show cow, a winning show cow.
That kind of single-minded devotion isn't just talk, it burns from within. And it would soon lead to results that nobody expected.
In 2003, just 4 years after taking over the farm, Nico entered the Holland Holstein show. This wasn't an impulsive decision. Harry Schilling, who was then the director of Cemex Netherlands, had seen something special in Nico's 2-year-olds and encouraged him to enter.
What were Nico's expectations going into this show?
In Nico's own words, nobody was thinking before that we should have any cow who could be winner from the class, or maybe fifth in the class, or anything like that. Even me was not thinking about that. He had zero expectations.
And Bosdale Farms hadn't forgotten him. They sent fitting expert Curtis McNeil to help Nico prepare his cattle, a gesture that speaks volumes about the impression this young Dutchman had made during his time in Canada.
The results were absolutely mind-blowing. They won champion 2-year-old, reserve champion 2-year-old, champion intermediate cow, and the best breeder herd. For a first-time entrant with a homebred herd, this was unprecedented.
When the judge tapped his 2-year-old as champion, Nico stood frozen at the halter, completely stunned. His hands trembled as he accepted the ribbon, his mind racing to understand what had just happened. All those years of work, barn modifications, and careful breeding decisions had paid off far sooner than anyone predicted.
Back in the cattle barn after the class, he called Leanne with his voice cracking with emotion. "We did it! I can't believe we actually did it." Then he paused before adding quietly, "I wish Dad could have seen this."
That early success sparked an even bigger ambition. Nico immediately set his sights on winning the European show, a goal that would take him 19 years to achieve. He finally accomplished it in 2022 in Cremona, Italy, with a champion young cow, reserve grand champion, best breeder, and best exhibitor titles.
What makes this achievement truly remarkable is that Bons Holsteins has been 100% homebred since 1945. While other prominent herds advanced through strategic acquisitions, Nico built his program entirely through selective breeding.
King. It's like taking a local pickup basketball team and turning them into NBA champions without ever signing a free agent. Going from an 80.2 herd to today's 89.7 average through breeding alone is almost unheard of in the Holstein world.
But this kind of success doesn't come without sacrifices. The level of perfectionism and dedication Nico brings to his program has its own costs.
Douglas, here's something that surprised me about Nico. Despite all his championships, he actually hates show days. Physically hates them.
That does seem contradictory. For someone who's achieved so much in the show ring, you'd think he'd love the competition.
He's confessed, "Honestly, I never enjoy show day at all. The stress and the pressure I put on myself is probably very difficult for me." Instead, he finds joy in the preparation, getting the cows ready in his barn at home. It's the journey, not the destination, that brings him satisfaction.
And it goes far beyond normal pre-show nerves. In his first 10 years of showing, Nico couldn't eat on show days and would throw up 7 or 8 times. Can you imagine being so passionate about something that your body physically rebels against the pressure you're putting on yourself?
If you've ever run into Nico at a show and found him a bit standoffish, there's a reason for that. He's explained that it's not because he doesn't like people, but because he's so intensely focused. In his words, "We put so much time in these cows that we have to be sure that everything is 100% ready and spot on. And I cannot make one little fault. I should not forgive myself."
And the perfectionism doesn't end when the show does. His post-show routine is intense. He milks the cows just before they go on the truck to the show. Again, 4 hours after they return home, and then gets out of bed in the middle of the night to check them one more time for any signs of mastitis or health issues.
That's next-level dedication. Most people would be celebrating or sleeping after a big show, but Nico's out there in the middle of the night, checking udders. This isn't just a business for him. It's an all-consuming passion that demands nothing less than perfection.
This intense focus has been balanced by another aspect of Nico's career, his extensive experience judging cattle around the world, which has given him a unique perspective on breeding. Nico has judged cattle in 17 different countries. That's not just frequent flyer miles, it's a masterclass in global Holstein genetics.
How has all this judging experience influenced his breeding program back home?
It's given him a 3-dimensional preview of how different bulls perform in various environments and management systems. As Nico explains it, when you judge shows, at the end of the day, you try to find out what the champion was and what the first one in the class was. You want to find out what the father was. It really helps you to get an idea how a bull is breeding.
That global perspective becomes absolutely crucial when you're running a 100% homebred operation like Bons Holsteins has been since 1945. There's zero room for error when you're not buying in genetics.
As Nico puts it, with milking 60 cows and not buying any calf or any heifer, if you make one mistake with buying a bull, 15 doses of semen, then you are in big trouble in 3 years.
I love how Nico doesn't just follow trends. He's developed his own true type ideal based on what he's seen work around the world, and he's not afraid to question the establishment either.
He's quite direct about it. He said, "Sometimes I see judges doing a job that I think, what the heck is going on? Are these people milking cows by themselves?" You can just picture him watching a show, shaking his head in disbelief when the placings don't match his vision.
What really shows Nico's independent thinking is his approach to bulls like Alligator. While others might have dismissed Alligator daughters because they weren't winning heifer classes, Nico saw something different.
He observed that they were not narrow-chested, they had debodied, they were maybe not the strongest on the top line, but even when I saw the first 2-year-olds, I saw the fantastic udders down under them. That's the benefit of his judging experience. He can look past current show trends and see long-term potential.
This wealth of global experience is something Nico is now passing down to the next generation, particularly his daughters, who are following in his footsteps. One of the most heartwarming aspects of Nico's story is seeing how his children, especially his oldest daughter Anouk, are continuing the family legacy.
Absolutely. At 19, Anouk is following a path that's almost eerily similar to her father's early journey. Nico beams with pride when he talks about how she's starting to clip the cows for him at shows. She's still learning, but already showing tremendous promise.
What's fascinating is that just like Nico did at Bosdale, Anouk spent 3 months training at Rosedale in America last summer. The parallels are striking.
Nico says, she had a great time with Nikki and Mark, and they gave her the opportunity to start with clipping the heifers and washing the show animals and train them, and she did go with them to Madison. That was something I think she had the same time what I had at Bosdale.
And she's caught the Canadian bug too. She's talking about going back to North America for a longer period to gain more experience. When asked how he'd feel if Anouk wanted to stay in North America permanently, essentially fulfilling the dream he had to abandon, Nico's answer reveals how parenthood has changed his perspective.
He said, I understood my dad now. If my daughter should say when she was leaving, maybe this summer for 4 or 5 months to North America, she could call me and say, hey, Dad, I'm not coming back. I stay here. I should say exactly the same thing. You come back first, and we talk about it. The same conversation he had with his own father decades ago is now playing out with his daughter. Only now he's on the other side.
But Anouk isn't the only Bons daughter making waves in the Holstein world. Her sister Tessa, just 16, is already showing the same passion and drive that defines the Bons family.
What's remarkable about Tessa is her incredible work ethic. Even Nico, with his legendary dedication, seems amazed by her commitment. Last year, she achieved something that took her father years to accomplish, winning reserve champion at the national show.
Detailed. Like her older sister, Tessa is already making plans to follow the family tradition with a work term in North America, further cementing the Bons family's connection to the continent that so profoundly shaped their breeding philosophy. With 2 daughters this passionate and skilled, Nico's legacy seems secure for another generation.
It's truly a family affair at Bons Holsteins. When you visit Bons Holsteins, you quickly realize it's not just Nico's show. All 3 kids are deeply involved. We've talked about Anouk and Tessa, but there's also Ruben, who's 13 and already contributing to the family operation.
What strikes me is how Nico marvels at his kids' work ethic. He said, I think I didn't work that hard when I was on their age, to be honest, especially when I was 15 or 16. I think many parents can relate to that feeling.
There's zero pretense when Nico admits how essential his family's contribution is. If my kids doesn't help us with the normal day jobs anymore, then we couldn't be that successful in the show ring anymore. That's not just humility, it's honesty.
But you know who's really the cornerstone of it all? Leanne, his wife. When Nico talks about her, his priorities couldn't be clearer. Bons Holsteins is definitely my wife, Leanne. I always tell my best friends if she's walking away from me, then I'm gonna follow her and not gonna stay on the farm by myself alone.
This family-first philosophy permeates everything about how they operate. Nico has said, if we win a show, then we all know, all 5 of us, we know we did it as a family, and there's nobody more important than somebody else.
In an industry that often celebrates individual breeders, this team approach feels refreshing and real. It's clear that for all his dedication to breeding, Nico's first loyalty is to his family.
This family foundation, combined with Nico's relentless pursuit of excellence, has transformed Bons Holsteins into a global success story.
What truly sets Nico's story apart is the transformation he's achieved. A farm that once averaged 80.2 points has become a globally recognized breeding operation, with a current classification average of 89.7 points.
For listeners who might not be familiar with the classification system, that's an extraordinary improvement. The farm has become so successful that embryos from Bons Holsteins now sell worldwide, with partnerships established with premier operations like West Coast Holsteins.
Yet despite this success, Nico maintains a surprising humility about his achievements. He's confessed, the stupid thing is that I don't realize that too much probably, that the world knows us. I never see myself as a fantastic or as a great breeder. I did my thing. I did what I liked. I followed my head.
This down-to-earth attitude extends to his advice for young people aspiring to similar success. If you have nothing at home on your farm, what is special for bringing to the show? That you want to win the show, it is possible. You don't always need a lot of money or a good start with good cows to be successful.
According to Nico, the key ingredients are hard work, trusted mentors, and unwavering focus. He emphasizes that young breeders shouldn't think they can only be successful if they start with advantages like a herd of really good cows or a lot of money.
His success with cows like Koba 219, the L'Authority daughter who was reserve grand champion at Swiss Expo and sold in a 50% partnership to a major North American operation, Koba 245, the remarkable 2022 reserve grand champion at Cremona, and Koba 191, the unbelievable Jasper Donner, has opened doors that once seemed firmly closed to someone starting with a commercial herd.
Perhaps this grounding explains Nico's enduring success. Behind the championships and the international recognition is simply a family united in purpose, with a father who, despite missing his own, has built a legacy that honors both his Canadian dreams and his Dutch roots.
As we wrap up our exploration of Nico Bons' remarkable journey, what stands out to me is the power of unwavering vision. From transforming an 80-point commercial herd into an internationally respected breeding program, to maintaining 100% homebred status since 1945, the Dutch Holstein story is truly inspirational.
What moves me most is how Nico has balanced his relentless pursuit of excellence with his dedication to family. After experiencing the profound loss of his father at a pivotal moment in his life, he's created not just a successful business, but a family legacy that will continue through his children.
For our listeners who might be interested in bringing some of that Dutch Holstein's excellence into their own herds, there's an exciting opportunity coming up. This isn't just a sale, it's a chance to invest in genetics forged by one of Europe's most dedicated breeders.
The star of the offering, Koba 291, is a special 2-year-old who dominated the 2024 HHH show with what's been described as her international allure. She's backed by a maternal line that produced Cremona's 2022 Reserve Grand Champion.
These animals aren't just cattle. They're living proof of Nico's 22-year quest for Holstein perfection. With 100% homebred genetics since 1945 and partnerships spanning from North America to Japan's elite breeders, this sale isn't about buying cows, it's about securing a legacy.
Whether you're chasing show ring glory or building a herd with solid foundations, this is your chance to incorporate the Bons breeding philosophy into your own program. To learn more about these opportunities, visit thebullvine.com for all the details.
Whether you're chasing show ring glory or building a herd with solid foundations, this is your chance to incorporate the Bons breeding philosophy into your own program. To learn more about these opportunities, visit thebullvine.com for all the details.
Thank you for joining us today on the Bullvine Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with fellow dairy enthusiasts. Until next time, I'm Bella.
And I'm Douglas, wishing you all the best with your breeding program.